welcome to the regular council meeting of March 10th, 2025. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territory of what is now known as the Comox Nation. And we are happy to continue their work now as a treated nation and look forward to continuing to develop good working relationships and all kinds of cool partnerships with the nation. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, and all in favor? And that is unanimous. And we have minutes from Committee of the Whole, February 24th, and regular council, February 24th.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of those? And that's also unanimous. And draft minutes for Heritage Committee of February 20th.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
And all in favor? That's also unanimous. And now we have Hagos Rempel in the audience, and she is going to come up and speak to our new art installation in the room. So come on up. And council, you can come up as well. So, yes. Yes. So we're not mic'd, but
Yeah, no,
did you see the story?
I have not seen the story actually.
So it's the legend of Quinish,
Figured, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whale and
Sure.
the glacier and the sun. And then the rope is representing cedar and the eagle feathers striped with
Excellent.
Isn't that awesome?
That's beautiful.
I love it.
Sean sent me a photo, but he didn't give me the background on it. But
Thanks.
when I got in, I pieced it together.
Yeah, I feel like it's not only a symbol of like our relationship with the nation and the people of the land, but also our relationship to the land itself. Like I feel like it represents that very well and has all the pieces of water and sky and
Absolutely.
mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for me, as soon as I came in and I saw the piece, realizing what it is and what it symbolizes, for me, it, initially it represents that relationship building that we've been working on for several years. But more importantly, the relationship between Quinish and Cumberland, right? It's right here in your backyard, and we get to see it from Comox First Nation, but you guys have it like literally right here, and it's such a beautiful symbolism for the relationship that we have and that we will continue to build as a treaty nation, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Beautiful.
So let's just do a little pose around the art.
Thank
Much
you.
for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the
camera.
yeah, thank you for the invitation, and
Yeah.
it's exciting times, and I'm really looking forward to working with the Village of Cumberland. So many more initiatives.
Yeah, we
coming
have a
forward.
community to community coming up.
Yeah, I really want to start instilling more of the government to government relations. I know in the past few years we've really focused on CVRD and I think maybe the city of Courtenay with regular visits to our council and maybe with your council. But it'd be really nice to start doing more of that. It'd be really cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on to correspondence, and we have a letter from the BC chapter of Coalition for Healthy School Food regarding the National School Food Program. Does anybody want to speak to that, or should I just speak to it? So the federal government announced funding for healthy school food program. And it is, that funding is tied to the province also providing funding, so it's some kind of matching funding program. And the province of BC, surprisingly, has not joined into this, put their money on the table yet. And so there is a move to ask communities to support this with a request to the Minister of Education and Childcare. And so I am hoping that council will receive this correspondence and request the mayor to draft a letter of support. If you are so willing, questions?
I'm just wondering, is there, do we have any idea why the BC government hasn't?
We do not.
Okay,
It seems odd.
it does.
So perhaps they are and just haven't done it, but it's not shown up yet. So the opportunity is now, because the any year-end spending happens in the next couple of weeks before the end of March. So I think there's a hope that some of that year-end surplus, which isn't there, could be offered, or that they'd find some money somewhere else.
Very good. You want?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I would move that we ask for that support. So I would move that council requests that the mayor write to Premier Eby and the Minister of Education and Childcare, urging them to sign this agreement.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you.
Second.
And all in favor? That's everybody. Thanks, your timing is excellent, Councillor Barecki. And similarly with the BC Farmers Market Nutrition Coupon Program, that program was funded for 3 years, and the 3-year funding has just ended. And we have a letter in our package that demonstrates the impact of this coupon program in the village of Cumberland, which is $83,000 going to our most vulnerable families, and is facilitated by the Comox Valley Farmers Market, the Sunday Market, and Cumberland Community Schools Society. And they are hoping for a letter of support as well. So if council is amenable, we could make the same recommendation for that one.
No problem, go ahead.
Any questions?
You take it.
Okay, I'll move that the mayor write a letter of support for the Comox Valley Farmers Market in favor of this.
Do we have a seconder?
I would second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous as well. Accessibility and Inclusion Committee Terms of Reference
Oh,
Update.
there's one more
sorry,
letter.
I skipped something.
City of Courtney letter.
City of Courtney letter. Oh, I jumped right to the bottom of the page. Request for financial contribution to public substance use, education, and awareness event. Do you want me to speak to this too, since I'm on this committee? Or somebody else want to speak to it?
If you know more about it, I only know it's in the letter.
Okay.
That's what-
Yeah, so we've got a letter of request from the City of Courtney. The City of Courtney has been funding the substance use strategy now for, I'm going to say 3, 4, or 5 years. And this event is one of the outcomes of the Phase 2 report, I believe, which was to do some anti-stigma education in the community. Particularly with the business community, but the broader community as well. And so the City of Courtney rep on the substance use strategy has taken this to their council, and the City of Courtney is putting $7,500 together for it. And the community action team is also committing, looks like $10,000 to the event, and they are asking both the town of Comox and the village of Cumberland to also contribute just $2,500 from us. So we're looking for support for that. Yes.
They're asking us for $2,500, which is 1/3 of the amount that they put in. I would suggest that we put in $1,250, as we are 1/6 of the size of Courtney. So as a fair contribution and to match their contribution, that would be, this amount would be suitable for Comox, who is 1/3 or 1/2 the size.
I'm going to just trust your math on that. I've not done that calculation. Other thoughts, council?
Yeah, I could support that suggestion.
Yeah, I could support that. I'm not even going to ask which pot that money would come from if it's down at that level.
Councillor Brackey, do you have thoughts, questions, concerns?
I do feel that Courtney bears a lot of the brunt of the social issues in the area. You know, I agree we're just 1/6 the size, and fair enough, but I'd just like to be mindful that they really have taken the lead and do require a lot of the resources within the valley just by virtue of the gravity of that community alone. So I'm comfortable with the $2,500 if we can find it, but you know, yeah, those are my thoughts. But I'd be willing to look at $1,250 too. But I do think we should recognize that they do carry quite a burden compared to the rest of the valley.
They sure do. That number was 1650.
Oh,
1250.
1650.
1250. It was 1250. Sorry, I had it wrong. You had it right, Councillor.
And that was,
What, here 1800, somewhere in the middle?
that was going to be my next question for staff. Where would we find?
Do we have host amenity funds
Money
maybe
is it
left or
would be.
something?
Yeah, well, you guys do have a public relations budget as well that you could use if it's only 12, whatever I think you said 1,200, or you would have to amend the financial plan if you wanted to use like host amenity funds. There's enough in host amenity.
Okay. Let's use host amenity. Does somebody want to make that recommendation?
Well, hold on a moment.
Sorry.
Did I hear you say that we wouldn't have to go through a financial plan amendments process, because that's got staff time attached to it that it equals $1,000. That we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to go through that if at the lower level.
Yeah, if you just used your own budget for that, it's already an option.
I don't know how much is in that budget and what do we use it for? That's my concern. I wouldn't want to commit that. I don't think it's very much.
The public relations budget, I could check if you give me a second. We do have some other commitments, I think, from that fund for this year.
I also don't feel uncomfortable contributing $2,500.
Yeah, I'm getting there as well. Actually, thinking it through in terms of like splitting hairs and the reputational.
I think one of the pieces for me is that the city of Courtney has provided the majority of the funding. So we have supported the substance use strategy committee in the past, but the city of Courtney definitely has provided not only the impetus and initial funding for that committee to start their work, but also has continued to fund it at a much higher level than any of the other local governments. So,
And there's staff time on top of it.
and
too.
and there is staff.
So I'd be happy to move that we make a $2,500 financial contribution towards this event, and that staff can work out the appropriate funding
I would
source for
recommend
that.
host amenity at
In that case.
2,500,
From host amenity funds.
and direct staff to bring back an amendment.
To the financial plan.
Wordsmith that, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Second? Was that
Okay. Was that enough of a motion, or you want me to flesh it out?
maybe that wasn't official enough.
I think as long as everyone's clear, you're providing $2,500 to the city of Courtney to be funded from the host, the waste,
The host
Host
amenities
amenity
fund.
fund.
host amenity fund, and to direct staff to bring forward an amendment to the budget,
There you go.
financial plan.
Second.
That
Second.
was moved by,
Councillor Ward and seconded by Councillor Sullivan.
thank you.
And all in favor? And that's unanimous as well. Thank you, everybody. And that event is on April, 15th and 16th, I think, so. And it is open to everyone. Yeah. Now, we have a request for a letter of support from the Comox Valley Airport Commission, BC Air Access Program Grant. Does anybody want to speak to this? Or somebody want to make the motion?
I'll move that we write a letter of support to the Comox Valley Airport Commission in support of the BC AAP grant application.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous as well. Okay, now we're on to the tricky stuff. Reports. Temporary use permit 3276 3rd Street. Hello, Seamus and Courtney.
Just a point of order. So we did release some late correspondence. Did we need to include that in the agenda? It was a late item.
No.
Not specifically with the late items. You could. Usually that's our practice that we do that.
Yeah.
So you can recommend that
Does
motion.
anybody remember who did the agenda?
It was Councillor Baraki and Councillor Sullivan.
Do you want to just amend that to include the, what's the number of
I
the
think it's
item?
7.1
There are 2 late items.
or 2 points.
The two
Yeah, I
late
think-
items. You can just say yes with amended, with the additions of the late items.
Oh, wait, I did the minutes. Councillor Sullivan did the
Okay.
agenda.
Oh, I think that. I moved that. Sorry, I moved that.
That's
as well.
fine with him. The late items are in. And we have a seconder for the late items. And we're just going to
Second.
do that again, just because
For officiousness.
officiousness. Okay,
Thank
now
you.
we can
Appreciate
do.
it.
Thank you. Thank you for drawing that to my attention, Counselor. Go ahead, Seamus.
Great, thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Purpose of this report is to request Council decision on temporary use permit 2024-02 TUP at 3276 3rd Street to permit the continued operation of a cannabis retail store on the subject property. In 2018, Council selected TruGreen Solutions, who is the operator of the cannabis store on the subject property, to be one of 2 vendors to receive the opportunity to apply for a temporary use permit for cannabis sales under the cannabis policies of the day. The first temporary use permit was issued in 2019 and was renewed in 2022. As a temporary use permit is valid for 3 years, with the option of a one 3-year renewal allowed on a temporary use permit. The previous temporary use permit is no longer eligible for any renewals, and as such, a new temporary use permit or rezoning is required for this business to continue operation. The business as it stands, there are no changes to zoning bylaw or cannabis retail policy compliance, including our buffering requirements, and it remains in compliance with the business plan previously reviewed and approved at time of initial business licensing. There are also no changes to the provincial licensing requirements, so they remain in compliance with the provincial requirements, so no action would need to be taken as part of this TUP process. So overall, there have been no concerns raised regarding TruGreen's operations. However, village staff are aware of other bylaw compliance matters on the property. So the first item is the Community Urban Bazaar, or CUB, which has been operated on site by the owner of the property, who also owns TruGreen Solutions. In recent years, it has been brought to staff's attention that food trucks have been operated on the property without the benefit of business licensing, as well as bylaw complaints and inquiries regarding events on the property have also been brought to staff's attention. In response to these comments from staff, the applicant has advised that the CUB will not be operating events this year, but may consider offering the space out to rent for other community users to rent and utilize. As such, a recommended condition of this temporary use permit is to require all new businesses looking to operate on the property to obtain a business license. So this would include food trucks and users of the event space, essentially. And what this condition will do is provide a connection to this operating business, as it provides staff another pathway for compliance and accountability should future issues arise. The other issue is regarding the other commercial tenant on the property. So this business, Gravity Mountain Bike, which is a separate business from the property owner, has been operating in a space in the existing building. However, no occupancy was ever granted for that unit. As such, staff have been unable to issue a business license. To help resolve these matters, the owner of the property and the owner of the business have been working to obtain a building permit, and staff issued this building permit in February 2025 to complete some work and grant occupancy in that space. As such, we're recommending a condition that this work be completed within 6 months of the issuance of the temporary use permit. And again, this offers another pathway to compliance and accountability should this matter remain outstanding. We're also recommending conditioning the statutory right-of-way, which is again the standard 1.5 meter request for heritage alteration permits throughout the downtown core for lane widening. This was to be addressed as part of the heritage alteration permit for the Cub, which was issued in 2021. However, as that project did not come to fruition and the HAP has now expired, we're recommending we get this item via the TUP instead. The way we've conditioned this on the temporary use permit is that the temporary use permit will not be released to the applicant and registered on title until we have confirmation that the statutory right-of-way has been registered. So council can authorize the temporary use permit tonight. However, we won't issue the permit until we have the statutory right-of-way registered. Now, one thing I would like to note is that, as you are aware, that temporary use permits are inherently temporary. However, in this instance, we felt that a temporary use permit was a better route to go as opposed to a rezoning, since we are going to be undertaking the zoning bylaw update this year, and we'll be evaluating how cannabis retail fits into the zoning bylaw as part of this project. So as such, it was determined that in this case, a new TUP was an appropriate approach as opposed to doing a rezoning. Rezonings do take about a year, so it's likely that that rezoning process, if it had been launched, would overlap with the zoning bylaw and would have just made for some awkward timing. So as this is, of course, an existing operation, no referral to the Advisory Planning Commission was required, and no public information meeting was required either. In line with local government regulation, notice was issued to neighbors within a 75-meter radius of the operation, as well as posted in the Comox Valley Record. As of the 2 p.m. Deadline for submissions today, 2 letters of correspondence were received to staff expressing concerns about the property. In the just for summary in these letters, overall, the concerns were more related to the event space in the form of the Cub as opposed to the cannabis retail. The writers had no concerns with the cannabis retail, but again, were more concerned about some of the other activities happening on the property. Now, one thing I'd also like to note, just for clarity's sake, some of the letters did reference like a gazebo and an Airstream. However, I'd like to note that these actually aren't located on the subject property. They're actually located on an adjacent property to the subject property. However, it is owned by the property owner, but since it's not this property that's under consideration, we just can't consider it as part of this TUP. So it would be just separate process.
Okay.
And that's all for the report, and I welcome your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, council?
I guess I've got one then. So the garbage bin that is in the, is that their garbage bin, however, that is on the adjacent property?
I don't know the ownership of the the garbage can in question, but it could be hazard to be assumed that it is part of that business.
Okay, so, yeah, then they should be moving, it shouldn't be, they shouldn't have their garbage bin on a right-of-way, I guess, is on a public right-of-way.
Yes, the right-of-way hasn't been secured just yet, but you're right, that is one of the standard terms and conditions of the right-of-way, is that nothing obstructs the right-of-way.
I'm referring to the one that's on the sidewalk, in quotation marks,
I'm sorry.
on Penrith.
Just give me one moment.
The sidewalk kind of ends and it turns into gravel, and then the,
Yes, and you would be correct, that would have to go on their property.
yeah. But otherwise, yeah, I like the way you're tying in the compliance of the Gravity mountain bike and the right-of-way, so, good, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah.
council.
So just clarify these properties. So on the site plan with markup, the property in question is 3276. There's property 3274, which is the south side parking lot, and that is a separate property.
No, so 3274 is just an alias address that was issued at some point in the past.
So that includes that. This includes that property.
That's correct.
But it's from that property line backwards that currently has storage, a steel storage container and the Airstream and the other things?
That's correct, yes.
Right, okay. So I guess that's separate, because those containers aren't permitted, is that correct? As storage? I guess we're getting office property, so...
Storage containers are permitted in some cases in the VCME1 zone. However, I wouldn't be apprised at how it's connected at this time. I'd have to do more review.
Well, I'll come back to this property. The Cub CUB itself, does that have a business license?
The Cub, not at this time.
Okay, so, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I keep almost hitting that green bin with my car every time I try and turn into that alleyway, which we do frequently, so it's been a little frustrating. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Anybody else? Councillor Barecki, did you have questions?
Yeah, so I mean, the big issue here is obviously with the Cub space, and that you're saying we can't consider that with the TUP on this. However, you have to admit they're inextricably linked as part of the business in one way or another. Is there a TUP coming up on that Cub space in the near future? Does anyone know?
There was a heritage alteration permit issued for that space, but it has since lapsed. So there's nothing currently planned for that space. And so there's no, yeah.
So we can't link these in any way whatsoever. Because I do agree, as much as I love that space behind, it needs to be tightened up a little bit. And they are using it for events that are directly related to True Green. Is there any pressure we can bring to bear for them to kind of tighten up the garbage bins and the Airstream and some of the after hours?
For sure, yeah. So, yeah, and that's going to be one of the conditions of the business license. The TUP is that if the applicant chooses to operate the Cub again or rents out that lot as for event space, we are going to be requiring a business license. So that would cover this portion of the property, and that would also be our tool to. It basically provides another pathway to accountability. So if there are issues with noise, garbage cans, unsightliness, then we have another avenue to help bring that into compliance.
Okay, and I like the space. I realize they operate as two separate things. I do agree with the late agenda item and the correspondence from the neighbors that that buffer between residential and commercial is it's being tested quite highly.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor. Go ahead, Councillor Sullivan.
So for clarity, will the Cub need to require a business license to require other businesses to need a license to rent it? Is that clear? Sorry.
To that. So the variety of things have been occurring on that property under the name of the Cub, or maybe not, but on that property. Sometimes there's a food truck that's the only thing that's happening is the food truck is open for business. And sometimes there are events under the name of the Cub, and that may also have food trucks. If a food truck is just operating on that property, it needs to have a business license. And an event needs to have a business license. Like if this is an event for the public, or if the property is being used either to host events itself or to be rented to others to host their events, it's like an event space. Like you might be hosting weddings on your farm or something like that. And this has been explained to the property owner over time, yet no business license has been applied for. So, and I guess maybe to answer the question, I suppose if there was an event, if the Cub had a business license for holding events, and a food truck rolled in and operated as part of an event, then that individual food truck, we'd have to look at it. We'd have to look at that question. When the business license is applied for, we'll go and go through all of our processes, and then we have to figure out at that point, if it's just part of that event, does that particular food truck need a business license? Probably not. But if that food truck is there all on its own, then yes. And so we have this condition we're recommending as part, it's in the draft TUP, that, I mean, it just does repeat actually what's already in the bylaws, that you need a business license. But by including it in the TUP, that does give the option if this occurs again, where events are operating without a business license or food truck without a business license, technically the TUP could be revoked because they wouldn't be in compliance with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You note also, and it's sort of connected, but the registration of a right of way. You said that basically the TUP wouldn't be issued until that was properly registered.
That's correct,
Does
yes.
that mean if that doesn't? When does this TUP need to be in place? The 31st of March? Was that when the existing one expires? I read from the report. I think it was expires on the 31st of March.
Yeah, it's imminently, yeah.
So does that mean that registration must happen before the 31st of March, or the applicant will not have a operating permit?
Yes, so basically what happens is once the TUP expires, the business cannot operate. So if they had a business license, it wouldn't be valid because the land use is no longer authorized. So they since that case, if they were to continue operating, then they would be operating without a license. So it just has that knock-on effect. But once we have this SROW in hand and registered, then we can release the TUP and then we can ensure that the license keeps operating.
Right. So, but there's some significant time pressure to the applicant
That's
for
correct.
that to happen.
Yes.
And what are the penalties for operating without?
Well, the village can serve a ticket for operating without a business license. I'm not sure of a value of that fine
That's
off the
right,
top of my head.
Yeah.
But that's
And we did brief the applicant on how we were going to approach the SROW, and they were aware of it, and they advised me they were engaging with a lawyer to get it resolved as soon as they can. So it is in the works.
yeah. I just wanted to ensure that, since part of the intent is to ensure compliance, that
Of
we
course.
are being prompt about that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, there's a recommendation there.
I'll move that council approve the issuance of a temporary use permit for a non-medical cannabis retail store for the property described as Lot 12, Block 10, District Lot 21, Nelson District Plan 522A, 3276 3rd Street.
I will second that.
And all in favor? And any opposed?
I still think it should be tied to tightening that up a fair bit, so. Opposed.
Opposed? Councillor Barecki. And that is carried. Okay, community grant applications, thank you very much, you two.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am a member of a society applying for one of these grants, so I will remove myself from this discussion.
Hide in the secret chamber.
Okay.
We'll try and be quick. Okay, so, are you introducing this, Rachel, or do you just want us to jump
Maybe
into?
Baxter.
Yes, I could. Okay, so this report presents applications for community grants for council to consider allocations. The grant program aims to provide a limited amount of funding for one-time special projects and seed funding to community organizations to provide social, cultural, recreational, and environmental services that benefit the residents of Cumberland. Special events held primarily for residents are also eligible. The village received 12 funding applications this year for a total request of just over $33,000, and this doesn't include the two applications deemed ineligible. Applicants are asked to provide the minimum grant amount of funding required for their project to proceed, and this total minimum amount, less the ineligible applications, is $23,350. Under the program guidelines, funding will be distributed based on alignment with village strategic priorities. Due to the number of applications received this year, staff have suggested the criteria to consider focusing on applications from organizations that have not previously received funds from the village. Also, council may choose not to approve applications that would use a significant amount of the annual program budget, as they would take the majority of that budget, and that's due to the number of applicants. There were two non-eligible applications. One was for an installation in the Cumberland Rec Center, which did not receive, does not have a partnership agreement to for that service. It was part of a climbing wall installation. And the second was from a sports organization for competitions or travel expenses that is not eligible. There is an appeal to that decision, staff recommendation, as a late item to this agenda. The report also outlines a comment on the Community Cares Peer Outreach application for services at the village cemeteries. The village doesn't currently provide the service proposed there, but staff resources would be required to oversee that work and to provide support. There's a staff recommendation to make a change to the grant guidelines to provide more clarity about projects that are proposed using village property or facilities. And that change would be an addition that the applicant must have a completed partnering agreement, permit, or other permission from the village for projects or services proposing to use a village facility, property, or resource before submitting an application to the grant program. The guidelines with that proposed change is attached to the report, and I'll just make a note, the track changes didn't work out, so it's section 2F is the new. It's not to be considered as part of this intake, but that's for future, if council approves it. And staff for next year will update the application form to add a new section for applicants to actually describe how their project furthers the village's strategic priorities that are identified by the applicant, just to make sure that they cover that in their application. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So maybe what we can do is just go through the list with a general feeling? Or,
First off, do we need to accept that late item?
we did. We
Did we
amended.
accept all the late items from the last one
Yeah.
and this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we
And then,
consider the
and then should we deal with that first,
Which? The appeal?
the appeal?
Sure.
I think you had some ideas.
Reading the note from the president of the society on his appeal, I actually have some sympathy with the ambiguity around the reading of from sports organisations for competition or travel expenses. You could put those together with expenses, competition or travel, and it could be viewed. However, I see the intent. I also feel that the guidelines state very clearly that applications will only be accepted for a one-time special project or service. I don't believe that this is a one-time special project. It's run before. Seed operating funding for initial operations or establishing new revenues or services. I don't think that this application does that. Or a one-time special event or seed funding for a new special event. And I don't think, because this event has run multiple times before, I think it actually, the ineligibility centres on section A1, A, B, and C. And for that reason, I would reject the appeal and continue to view that as an ineligible application, personally.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Ward's reading of that.
Okay.
This is not a new project or service.
It's a great thing to be doing.
Yep, I like it, but it's not new, and I don't believe it's eligible.
Okay, so we'll just go through,
So-
so if everyone is happy to leave the ineligible grants outside of this conversation, because they're ineligible, then we can just speak to number 1 to number 9.
Should we invite Councillor Sullivan back in then?
No.
Seeing as how his item is no longer
No, I don't think so.
under consideration?
I think that decision would rest with Councillor Sullivan if he believes he's still in conflict.
Okay.
It is included in the report as a whole,
Yeah.
and you haven't made a decision by motion. It's kind of Yeah, that's a tough one. It is included in the staff report and the overall consideration, so,
As an applicant.
as an
Yeah.
applicant.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, I'm fine with that then.
Fair enough. And then, okay.
So the first one is the Ginger Goodwin headstone restoration. So maybe we can just get a feeling of generally supportive, and then we can work out the numbers later. Generally supportive or not supportive is how
might
I was
I-
thinking.
Might I know, maybe. No, I'd be very happy to tell you the four I like and see if we've got an overlap. But if you would like to go through them individually and have us express support or lack of,
I would. I would
Okay.
like us to just go one by one and say, yes, I'm generally in support, or no, I'm not, and then we'll get a feeling of where we're at. So the first one is Ginger Goodwin's headstone restoration. General feeling.
support.
I support this one generally, yes.
Support it.
The community cares peer outreach, the cemetery grave cleanup, which would entail staff time.
Totally support.
Not support.
Yeah, I'm not super
I'm
comfortable
not,
with this.
this is
I
not one of my
appreciate what-
favorites.
Yeah,
I
I appreciate
appreciate
what they're
this.
trying to do, but I have parents, I have grandparents there, and I actually am not super comfortable with someone going and dealing with my family's.
Yeah.
Plot.
I'm, exactly.
So I appreciate the intention, like I appreciate what they're trying to do, and maybe there's some way in the future to work with them.
Without family permissions,
Yeah.
I'm a bit,
It just
Oh,
feels a bit-
sorry, I didn't realize it was without family permission.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay,
I don't-
yeah, I withdraw my original statement then.
okay, okay. So the next one is Comox Valley Arts Council, a settler inquiry into place-based tradition.
Support.
I'm on the fence on this one. I have others that I like better.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like this one too, but it sounds like in the application that there are two sort of kind of almost parallel or additional events, and so maybe this could come back next year for another try since we're so oversubscribed. Next one is Comox Valley Family Services Early Years Spring Social and Soup.
Support.
Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah. It's a good idea, but yeah, there's other ones I like.
Okay. And the next one is Comox Valley Farmers Market for Farm and Food Literacy Kids Program.
Support.
Support. I like this one.
Strongly support, yeah.
Everybody likes that one. And then Cumberland Community School Song Development. What a lovely idea.
We missed
And-
one.
Oops.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Historical Society Solidarity Mentorship Program.
Not support.
Yeah, again, I'm midway on the fence on this one.
Yeah, I feel like we give them almost $40,000 a year already. Yeah, so. Councillor Barecki, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, there's others I like.
Yeah.
I think it's great when I say there's others I like, it doesn't mean I don't agree with it. I
Yeah.
just realize we have a limited pot of funding.
Totally. Okay, the next one is the community school.
Not support.
Yeah, I like this idea, but this would take up most of the funding, and I don't think the amount that we're going to be able to share with them is going to
Actually make it happen.
make it meaningful. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of gooey. If they were a little came in under this, I'd be more supportive, but
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and then the seniors in a trickshaw bike.
Not support.
yeah, no, I don't see this one. Sorry.
I don't know. I
like
like the
it.
cycling without age.
My only concern is that with it is that it's not a nonprofit, or it's just a person, right?
Gosh, like, yeah.
Did I read that right?
It is I think a branch of a larger organization, and I did confirm with the applicant
Okay.
that if the village approved it and issued funds, that they could cash the check in the organization's name.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
doesn't- we don't
So we do
require-
have somewhere to give the money that's not just, Joe.
It's an organization.
Okay. Not that there's anything wrong with Joe. Yeah, I'm, okay. So we're stuck on that one. And Eureka Support Society for their back patio.
Not support.
Can someone tell me a little more about the Eureka Support Society here?
I believe it's is it the Head Injuries Society? It's head injuries or mental health, and they have a building downtown with a back patio, and they want to make the back patio nicer and grow some food and stuff like that.
It's on 4th in England.
Yeah,
Have I
it's
got
in
the right
Courtney.
place? Yeah.
Gotcha.
So maybe they
You
could
you
apply
feel like
to
a
see-
ghoul when you don't want to support some of this stuff.
Hey, we have $33,000 of applications and $10,000 in grants.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to say no.
Given the local focus, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm landing on this too. I like the idea, but I'd rather stick local.
Yeah. Okay, and the next one is Poetics Lab, Rain Shadow Poetry Festival.
Not support. And I do want to add to that, saying I support or not does not reflect on the quality of these ideas. It is that
It's just
I chose $10,000 worth of funding that I said I would support here, and then I'm open to discussion after.
Yeah, I've fallen into much the same category. I'm looking at a few that I like further up the list.
yeah.
Likewise.
Okay, so now maybe if you guys have your lists, we could start there. I had reduced so we could fit more in, but it sounds like we might not have to do that. So, yeah. So, do you want to do your list?
Yeah, number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5, fully funded comes to a few $100s under 10.
Number 1,
1, 3,
3,
4, 5.
4, and 5.
Okay, there's
Numbers are a bit off.
yeah, there's two
Sorry, yeah.
threes.
There's
I think you mean,
the numbering on the
he means
page
the
is
soup.
wrong, is duplicated. There's 2 number 3s.
No,
Could you name the organizations?
I'm sorry.
He means
Ginger
the-
Goodwin, the BC Labour Heritage Centre, the Comox Valley Community Arts Council, the Comox Valley Family Services Organisation, and the Comox Valley Farmers Market.
Okay, so the only one I think that we weren't unanimous about was the Comox Valley Services. Oh,
I think it was the
Jesus,
Community
no.
Arts Council. There
It
was
was
some
the Arts Council.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
We can check on everybody else and see.
yep.
I'd still put it into hockey nets for the Cumberland Cup. That's me.
So, which ones do you want to support, Councillor Barecki?
The BC Labor Heritage Center, the Comox Valley, where is it here? The Farmers Market, and the good grief. Where is it? Sorry.
That's
Very
okay.
small, and I'm
Take
trying
your
to see. Yeah, the first one, the Comox Valley Arts Council, the Comox Valley Farmers Market, and those are the 3 main ones. I actually had the Cumberland Cup Society in mind, but given the possible ineligibility due to it not being the a novel item. You guys can choose from those for me.
Okay. Counselor, oh, sorry.
Whatever tiebreaker you need on those.
Okay. Counselor Cherian?
Yeah, I like 1-3. Yeah, the Ginger Goodwin, the Early Years Spring Social and Soup, and the Farm Literacy Program for the Farmers Market are my top three, and then I could go either way on the Arts Council or the museum mentorship. Is where I'm at.
I'll put mine into the museum mentorship too. I think it's important to have some continuity.
I would rather support the either the Arts Council or the Trishaw, the seniors, the seniors bike. And I like the early years spring social. So I like the BC, the Ginger Goodwin, the Arts Council, and the early years and the farmers market. Did I do that right? And the tricycle. So we need to choose between. It looks like the early years spring social and because we have, yours did not include the early years, right?
Yes, it did.
Oh,
Yes.
it did.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we have 3 on that one.
I believe we're choosing between the Settler Inquiry
And
and
the
the
Trickshaw.
Museum.
Trishaw.
Another museum had 2.
Well, go for the seniors then.
For the Trishaw rides?
I'm back here taking care of my folks, so yeah.
Right?
I just got swayed again here, so yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Getting seniors out.
I just really, I feel like we are already giving the Historical Society a substantial amount of money every year.
Okay.
So that's hard for me.
Yeah. I'll change. I've been swayed for the cycling without age. It would be, and I know there's some seniors in the village which have really, it means a lot for them to get out and about. And it's
Yeah.
any activity that you can give the senior to get them out of their house and moving around really extends the quality of their life. So
That's good.
yeah, I'll move towards that one instead. Thank
Okay,
you.
so if we do, so I'm gonna look at you two to do the math because you're the numbers guys.
Yeah, I'm just trying to add it up now.
Thank you.
If we've got BCL and Farmers Market, and then 2,400 was the,
I think we're within pennies of 10,000, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. If we do the farmers market at 1,500 instead of 1,495, because that just makes numbers hard. And then early years, right?
I was doing everything's. I was doing the full
And-
fundings.
full funding.
Yeah.
2023. 'Cause
But
farmers
she's
market
asked
is
for. Oh,
27.
sorry, that's the minimum. Sorry, I misread it. Okay.
And then which was our third one? Was the Family Services Association?
Yeah, the soup.
The soup was
Social and
2,400. So that leaves us at, those 3 take us to 7,100. So we can fully fund the cycling one there. And that's, yeah,
And
that's,
that's under 10,000.
Just-
$10,027 is what I get.
is it?
I get 10,027 if we looking at.
Okay, so we
from
can
the
pull
numbers.
the.
Number 1, the number 2, number 4, and number 7.
So we just need to take that $27 off somebody's grant.
Okay, you've got 2. Are you talking about 2 or 3?
Yeah, well, I was using the actual numbers, so let's.
No, but are you talking about the settler-based inquiry or the early years spring social and soup?
Sorry, it was the social and soup, wasn't it?
Yeah, social and soup.
So it's the social and soup, yes.
Yeah, and that takes us to just under, I think.
Okay,
Just over.
okay. Did you get that? 'Cause
I can go through them and you can let
Okay,
me know if I'm
great.
correct. So BC Labour Heritage Centre at $2,023.
Mm-hmm.
Comox Valley Farmers Market at $27.34.
Okay,
Comox Valley Family Services Association, which is the early year spring and soup, is 2,400. And Cycling Without Age,
2866.
2,866. Yeah. The total for that was $10,000. 10,000.
I get
10,000.
subject to correction 10027.
So we're $27 over.
Hey,
Pardon me?
I got $23 over, but yep.
okay, so let's just take
BC
the,
Labour be 2,000.
BC Labor could be 2,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
$3 over.
Okay, who's making that motion?
Do I have to read them all out? I
I think
will,
Rachel's got it.
I think we just did.
Okay, so I can move the approved list?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. And all in, seconder,
Second.
sorry?
I'll second that.
And all in favor? Counselor Brecky, you don't look happy. Are you okay?
oh,
You're
no,
good.
no, I do. I
Okay.
just, it's dark, it's late.
It is much later there than it is here.
Yeah, it's quite a bit late.
Thank you for staying up for us. Counselor Tyrion, can you let Counselor
yes, I
Sullivan out? We voted,
Let him out.
right? Okay. Okay, and now we are on to Accessibility and Inclusion Committee Terms of Reference Update.
We had a wording change on the, you have a wording, still in this item, you have a wording change.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes. Good catch. Yeah. Can you do that as a
Second motion.
second motion?
Yeah, I did just, I still found it very slightly, not ambiguous, but
You're okay.
it led with, where did it lead with? I'm just trying to get back to it.
What's that, 2F?
Yes.
Have a completed partnering agreement, permit, or other permission from the village for projects or services proposing to use a village facility, property, or resource before submitting an application to the program.
Yes, I just almost had it that the applicant must, if proposing to use a village facility, property, or resource, then have a complete partnering agreement. Because if in all the blur you skim read this and you read the first sentence, the applicant must have a completed partnering agreement permit. Oh, I'll stop now because I don't.
Right.
An uneducated applicant
I see.
might stop at the first clause of that and not apply because they don't have a partnering agreement. So if we said, must, if proposing to use a village facility, have an agreement. Does that make sense?
That's very sequel programming of you, Nick.
Yeah, I know. Can you tell? Also doing these things.
But very accurate.
Okay. So with that,
Do you need a motion then? So I move that we adapt section 2F to read of the, you want it exact, do you? Do you
or
want-
could we just
generally?
ask staff to update that with the feedback given? We don't, do we really,
Can-
do we need
yeah.
a motion for that?
Could- Do we need a motion for that?
I'm sorry.
Do you need a motion to change the wording of the new section in the policy?
You could just approve it as presented, as Councillor Ward
Yeah,
indicated.
yeah, so you don't have to say it.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
So go ahead, move that.
So I'll move that the changes to the policy the policy is adapted as presented.
Second.
yes.
Amended.
All in favor? And that is carried as well.
The intent is
Okay.
there.
Now accessibility and inclusion.
The intent is there.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Wasn't that long?
Sausage making.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bit sausagey.
Okay.
Okay. So this report is to present an updated terms of reference for the Accessibility and Inclusion Committee. It is proposed that these new terms of reference be in place for an interim period during the development of an accessibility and inclusion assessment and action plan this year. So in regards to that assessment and action plan, a draft scope of work was developed late in 2023. I think I was optimistic and when that request for proposal would be going out. The committee did give some feedback that was incorporated into the RFP, which it has been issued, and with the closing date, I think on Thursday or Friday this week. The RFP does include facilitated engagement with the committee to explore known barriers across village administration, services and operations, and thoughts on how inclusion could be improved. Also included in the scope is to make recommendation on the future role and scope of the committee and recommended departmental staff support and funding resources. After the completion of the plan, a new terms of reference would be drafted based on this recommendation and brought back to council at that time. So this, the terms of reference attached to your report, there's the changes didn't show up in here. So the changes are in section 1, the scope of work, and also in membership, section 4B, which adds membership will include persons whose membership would reflect the diversity of persons in British Columbia, and that's taken out of the Accessible BC Act to broaden that membership of the committee.
Okay. Questions, council? Go ahead.
No question, just a comment. I sit on this committee. And I like these new terms of reference, the fact that we're going to work with this consultant and see where we're going to go from here as we have joined the larger accessibility committee for the entire Comox Valley. Trying to decide where we fit into that overall framework will be a good place for us to land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my only concern around the new terms of reference is that the social and political equity piece that was added a few years ago is not included in that. And so I would be concerned that the consultant doesn't see that as part of the role of the committee. And given that the physical accessibility work is mostly completed, that I'm concerned that that work might get lost. And I think there are that would have consequences in the community. Even though we haven't really figured out how to engage that work with the committee, I think it's still worth having that as part of the scope of the committee. Particularly because we have worked on the physical accessibility stuff and we have not worked on the social and political equity piece. Does anyone else have?
Would that be reflected under the reflect the diversity of persons in British Columbia?
Well, it would add those bodies to the committee, but it doesn't add the work to the committee. So it doesn't add. So in section 2.1 of the old terms of reference, it says to promote social and political equity as follows: identify barriers to social inclusion and accessibility and make recommendations, identify best practices in other communities and make recommendations, participate in reviewing the village's draft plans, policies and procedures to make sure that there are not barriers being created, draft a strategy for engaging with the community on issues relating to accessibility and inclusiveness. And that could just be, I mean, I don't know. I guess there's other, yeah. So I don't know how to keep that. Maybe we just need to keep the initial, like, maybe not all the lettered specific list of in the terms of reference, but just the goal to promote social and political equity. And then the consultant can try and figure out how that might work with the committee.
I think it would add clarity to the members of the committee in their role and their expectations, if that's what council was looking for.
Yeah.
To keep that just the site to promote social and political equity.
Yeah.
Just that one statement.
So the initial intent behind adding this to the accessibility committee was hearing from people in the community that were experiencing racism. And I just don't want to lose that piece of this work, because I think it's important, and I think the demographics in this village have changed an enormous amount, and there may be things that come up in the community that are related to equity and inclusion, and I just would like a place for them to land. And it could be that the committee and the consultant work on that and say, well, if there's a racist incident, send it to CJC. They have an online reporting thing. Like, I'm not attached necessarily to the committee figuring out how to deal with that inside the village. I just want us to figure out, what would we do if someone came to us and said, I had this experience, and we right now have no way to support them or do that work.
Okay.
That's,
I would
Anybody?
support language to that end being included in the terms of reference.
Sure. Yes.
I'm
so does that, just having that line to promote social and political equity, will that do it?
That should capture it, and then I'll explain it
Yeah.
when we meet in committee and the consultant comes, and I can explain these concerns and
Okay.
bring them up with our consultant and see how we want to work with it.
Yeah?
And if we've got that piece, that language in there.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have thoughts or questions? Okay, so there's a recommendation there, and you just have to add that one line, 2.1 in the original terms of reference.
I'll move that council approve policy 1.7 accessibility and inclusion select committee terms of reference as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. And now we have council member monthly reports. And there is a recommendation there, if nobody has, yes.
I have a verbal report.
Uh-oh. We don't do verbal reports anymore, but you're more than welcome to add it to the next
Oh.
monthly report thing.
Sure.
Which is what I did. You'll notice that mine is 2 months worth of reporting because I didn't get to it
I didn't know
last
that.
month.
was
I
the case.
didn't notice that. I started reading it and thought, oh my goodness, you did a lot.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
No,
And then I realized you were putting 2 months together.
And I also
You still did a lot.
I did, yeah.
I also apologize. I did not get to mine this month, and I will double up on mine next month as well.
Excellent.
I got mine from last month, so I'm a month behind. So I'll
Nice.
double it.
We're all on different schedules in a variety of places and a variety of forms. I'm sure that's
So,
just fine.
so I will move that we accept the monthly reports.
Thank you. And are we all in favor? Oh, we need a seconder first?
Second.
Second.
And we're all in favor of that. Yes, we are. That's unanimous. Okay. Bylaws, zoning amendment number 1225, 2025, and business license amendment bylaw 1226, 2025.
I'll move
Are
the
you
count.
presenting? All right, come on up, Seamus.
I don't have much to present.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring myself up again. Hello, council.
Hi.
Mayor and council. Basically, I just wanted to bring the bylaw up for third reading and just advise you that there have been no changes or any new correspondence received.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So someone want to make that first recommendation?
I'll move that council give third reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1225, 2025.
Second.
All in favor? Is this business license including the cannabis thing?
That's correct. The cannabis
Would you
is
like
related
to-
to the.
I will recuse myself.
I thought you might. And do you have anything to add to that one?
No.
No new correspondence or anything? Okay, there's a recommendation there, council.
I'll move that council give third reading to the business license amendment bylaw number 1226, 2025.
I'll second that.
Thank you, and all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Councillor Sullivan, you're good?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and no new business, so notices, motions, and announcements. As always, please do check the website to make sure that the meeting is actually happening before coming down here. All of these meetings are held in council chambers. There is an advisory planning commission meeting on March 13th at 4 p.m. Homelessness and Affordable Housing Committee is scheduled for March 19th at 9 a.m. And Heritage Committee is scheduled for March 20th at 4 p.m. Questions? You haven't even seen our meeting, so you can't probably ask any questions. You don't know what we... Anything online?
No questions.
Nothing. Okay, so somebody would like to move us into closed, please.
I'll move that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90 of the community charter to consider labor relations or other employee relations, acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, and information that is prohibited or information that if were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Second.
All in favor of going closed? Councillor Brecky is also in favor. That's unanimous.